Hi folks, welcome to another edition of Golriz. Today we'll be joined by other regular hosts of Golriz, Pezhman, Babak, Golriz, and Sina, Saemian. As we all know, Iran thankfully smoothly qualified for the World Cup with 2 games remaining, and remarkable achievement for Carlos Queiroz for getting our country to consecutive back-to-back World Cups. And another remarkable stat I gotta say is that Iran is the only country right now currently in the qualifying rounds that has 0 goals conceded. And that by itself is just fabulous to see. We just discussed about the Uzbekistan match and just few points and what's in store for us and our team in the future. And as always, we appreciate the support. Hope you guys enjoy. Right now, joined with the directors of Gold Bazan. How you guys doing?
Hi, Pasha. Nice
Great
to be back.
To you guys. It's good to be here again after a long time.
And in the center, I want to first start off talking about obviously the Uzbekistan match. In the lineup, we had Bayram in goal. Right back, we had Rezayan. Our 2 center backs were Hosseini and Pur Ali Genji. Left back, Mohammadi. Our 2 midfielders were Izzatoli and Karimi. On the right wing, we had Jahanbakh, Shojai as a number 10, and Taremi on the wing, and Osman up top. And now first starting off with Pezhman. What were your thoughts on the match and the lineup?
Well, as usual, my prediction is always wrong about who will be playing. And the biggest surprise for me was, of course, Ali Karimi starting. He's still new in the national team. Just a couple of games before that was his only experience. So I thought that he would play with someone else. And also playing Masoud as a number 10 was kind of a surprise for me. I was expecting Osman playing from start because I think that our coach, Queiroz, sees him as the number 1 striker. I think that will be the case for a long time, although there is some nice competition up there. So overall, more or less except a couple of surprises.
Babak, I know you were really overly impressed with Karimi's first ever full 90 minutes for the first team. What did you make out of him, knowing that, he's just recently had to move to Zagreb, which unfortunately hasn't worked out for him, but now he's doing well for his loan club, Lokomotiva.
Yeah, I think he was one of the bright spots. He was very composed on the ball. He looked to do the simple things. He was good to close down. At times, he impresses me more than Izzatoli, who's been around the national team for a long time. I feel he has a good future with us, and whether this is going to be a partnership that works long term, I'm not sure. But overall, I think what Queiroz has done, at least in the second chapter of his time with us, is he's shown that he has no emotional attachment to any player. He will choose the best players for the job, something that a lot of people criticized him for having favorites during the World Cup or before the World Cup. So you see him making changes regularly, new players coming in and starting in big games like Karimi without holding any special attachment to someone like Ibrahimi, for example, or even Andronik Temurian, who's back to full fitness but doesn't look like the old self. So overall, I think the confidence of the players, the confidence of Queiroz in the national team has made it easier for changes to take place without being overly cautious about this new player is coming in and how will he fare in a big game.
Sina, I know you highly rate Ali Karimi yourself. I'm knowing, from growing up through the ranks of Sepahan and now, with his debut that he just recently had, playing full 90 minutes. Do you see him and Izzatoli having a future partnership, or do you see like Haj Safi potentially sliding back and Ali Karimi being his backup?
As impressive as Karimi was in this game, and considering how impressive he has been in the last few years, as you said, coming through the ranks at Sepahan, and also for the Iran under-23s as well, I don't think he can displace Haj Safi that easily. I think Haj Safi remains as one of our key players, and I would expect him to start most games. I think he had a knock which ruled him out for the game against Uzbekistan, which is why Karimi started. But I think the fact that Karimi has such a solid game and a great performance it will give Queiroz some headaches as as the countdown starts for the World Cup. We know Omid Ibrahimi has been involved for the past few squads. He wasn't involved in this one again because of an injury. So it was all great timing for Karimi to come in and make a great impression as he did. So I would expect him to be more involved in the training camps and in the preparation games for the World Cup. And I think the key thing for him, the key element for him in the upcoming season is for him to be playing regular club football. This season he made a big decision to move to Dynamo Zagreb. He didn't make that many appearances for his club. He was loaned out to Lokomotiva. He played more regularly, scored 2 goals, I think. So we can see, as he plays more regular, the more he will improve. He's only 23 years old, so we can only expect him to get better and better with time.
Yeah. Throughout this pod, we've been discussing about the fullback positions. That has always been seemingly an issue for us. But as we could see, Milad Mohammadi, for me, honestly, and I believe you guys will agree as well, has really, really impressed all of us. And he's doing such a fantastic job in Russia. Well, where do you guys see him? Do you guys feel like he's going to be at, predominantly, left back throughout, the course of the season and in the World Cup? But on the other hand, for me, I still have an issue with Ramin Rezaian at the right back spot. And how do you guys assess his situation? I'm going to start off with Babak.
Well, since Mohammadi's come in, it's been a double blessing. First of all, Queiroz has made a change from Haj Safi, who I think most of us can agree is a liability at left back and can offer so much more in central midfield. So he's been free to play there. And second of all, we finally have a left back who looks solid enough in defense, although I still think he can improve his, tactical discipline a little bit, and is a threat going forward. His pace also helps players like Pour Ali Ganji, I think, who plays on the left side of centre-back, or Hosseini or Montazeri, who probably all lack enough pace. So I think Mohammadi has that left back spot. It's his to lose unless there's an injury or a drastic loss of form. I agree with you about Rezaian. He's not my favorite player in the lineup. He's probably the best of a inconsistent bunch right now. Ghafouri doesn't look like the player he was a couple of years ago during the Asian Cup. He looks like age is catching up. I think he's about 30 now. You don't see too many players coming through. So I think for Rezaian, it's very important where he goes and where he plays next season. If he can improve the tactical side of the game for himself, again, he could offer us good balance on the right, just like Mohammadi does.
Pezhman, how do you see the right back spot, especially knowing that even Pezhman Montazeri could play there, Ghafouri, and unfortunately, I don't think Steven Beitoshir is going to get another call up. But for you, with the fullback positions, how do you see those positions going?
Interesting, you mentioned Beitoshir because he's done great in MLS and he should actually at least be called up for the squad. But let me start off with I have to agree with Babak about Rezaian being like one of, you have to choose one of the not so good inconsistent players. But to be honest, Rezaian have done really great for the national team. He's that kind of modern footballer that we need today and that we finally seem to found. He needs to get better in defense, that's for sure. But when it comes to his abilities to be part of the attacking system for Iran, he's done great. In the friend against Macedonia, he was a big reason for both of the goals happening. In the game against Uzbekistan, we saw that he and the rest of the national team didn't give Uzbekistan a single chance to create opportunity. He had a good pace. He runs a lot. He's a fighter. He needs to get some discipline, and he needs also to develop his defensive play. But for me, I can't really see Ghafouri trying to compete for that spot. But the only chance Ghafouri have is that he's maybe slightly a better defender, but that's about it. I would choose Rezaian today if we have to choose an 11 for the national team, an 11 for the World Cup. It would be Rezaian for me.
Sina?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what initially Babak said about there aren't that many great right backs. But Rezaian is a player who moved to Turkey last summer to play in Europe. That move failed for whatever reason. He tried to go back to Persepolis. Persepolis accepted him, but he rarely played. He was mostly on the bench. So for the past season, he's been on the bench or maybe starting 1 or 2 games up until January, February, where again he had a problem in training ground. He had a bust-up with one of the players, and he was sacked from the club since then. So he's only played a handful of games for his club in the past season, but he's been a regular for Iran, and I think that is testament to how highly Queiroz regards him as a right back. Because look, Queiroz is a manager who stopped inviting Adreza Hayri to the national team because he didn't have a club, because he wasn't playing regularly. But with Rezaian, he's not really done the same, because Rezaian, again, is our best right back, even though he's not been playing regularly for almost a season. So from this summer onwards, especially since the World Cup is in a year, Rezaian has some big decisions to make in terms of his future. Personally, I think as long as he plays regularly for a club, then there is no doubt that he will start for Iran in the World Cup as the first choice right back. In terms of options, Vuria Ghafouri has been declining for the past 12 to 18 months. Especially since his move to Esteghlal last summer, he's not been playing that well in defence. The other options that we have are Hossein Mohini, who's been playing really well for Persepolis. He's got a great tactical awareness, which is why he's been brought back into the setup by Queiroz after a couple of years. And there's another right back who's been involved for a couple of squads as well. His name is Daniola Mohini. He was part of the Esteghlal Khuzestan team that won the title last summer. Again, he's a very young right back. He does have potential. He's a solid fullback. He's just decided to move to a bigger club in Iran. If he has a good season, if he plays regular and impresses throughout the season, then we could possibly look at him making his way into the squad for the World Cup. But these are all ifs and maybes. For me, Rezaian, again, as long as he's playing regularly for a club, then there is no doubt that he will start as a first choice right back when the World Cup is, next summer for the World Cup.
A player that honestly has really impressed me, has proved me wrong with the role he's been playing for the national team, is Taremi. Even the few matches, even in the last match against Uzbekistan, he was our star player, both scoring and providing assists. Coming back to you again, Sina, how do you see his role? And especially, he has such a fantastic partnership with Azmoun, especially for that second goal we saw against Uzbekistan. Do you think he's going to be potentially going to be a regular starter for us?
Well, as he has shown in the last few games, and the trust that Queiroz has put in him, that he could be a regular starter. I don't see why not with the way that he's been playing. I think one of the most important factors for him is his movement off the ball and the way he creates opportunities for others. I know he's been finishing up as a top goal scorer in Iran for 2 years running now, but I don't think finishing is his strongest point. He does miss a lot of chances for Persepolis, but the way he's been playing for Iran, I know Babak and most of us wasn't impressed with him at the beginning, but he does, when it comes to the big moments, he does turn up, and I think Queiroz has a specific job for him to do, which he seems to be doing. Again, that's the reason why he starts every game, apart from just scoring the goals. He's got great records for Iran. I think he's scored 10 goals in 19 games now, which is very impressive for a player who's not been playing as the centre forward. He's been playing down the left-hand side or the right wing. So yeah, I think he's been doing much better than we would have thought of a striker playing on the wing.
Babak?
I agree. When he first came in the team, about, I don't know, just a year ago or just over a year ago maybe, I wasn't so pleased. I wasn't so pleased with his involvement during the game. He seemed to be trying too hard to make an impression, but he ended up getting, at the end of some chances, and getting goals, even from the outset. Over time, he's kind of grown into the role. He's a little bit less of a headless chicken in that final third. And even if you don't see him so involved in the build-up play, he seems to get involved when it matters. And whether it's linking up with Osman, 1-2s, whether it's releasing him, whether it's coming at the end of good chances like he did, or creating a chance out of nothing for himself against Uzbekistan. So I think the fact that Queiroz has been picking him almost throughout, consistently, since he started him. So he's been playing as a starting player for his time in the national team, suggests that there is something that he's doing that the coach likes. And the fact that Ashkan Dejava is not the same player he was a few years ago. His pace, which was never really there in the first place, it's even non-existent now. So if Dejava is going to come back to play a role for us, I think it's going to be in a number 10 role behind Osman. And then you have Amiri as well, who doesn't look like the player who broke through at the Asian Cup. So it suggests that the options are limited. You have Torabi as well. But I think that position is Taremi's to lose. He's done enough to stake his claim, and he's scoring vital goals. So we all have to raise our hands and say he's proved us wrong.
Pezhman, and one thing I also want to add something that Babak brought, which is a great point. Do you potentially, because we've been linked with Saman Ghodus, and supposedly even the Federation has contacted that potentially he could get a call-up, and he's done supposedly spectacular in Sweden. Do you could potentially see him playing a role for us as well, Pezhman?
Well, I follow Saman Ghodus and his team, Östersund in Sweden. And let me start by saying that Östersund last year was a surprise team. They came up from the division below called Superettan. And this year they are third so far. So they've been doing great. It wasn't just the first year's good luck. With Saman Ghodus, he had a really good second half of the last season. And this season, although he hasn't been scoring that much, he's been vital and important for his team. He has some really good confidence, and I believe the only way for him to be an interesting name in the squad for the Iranian national team is if he will change his club. When I interviewed him a couple of months ago, he said that he wants to find a new club this summer 2017. If that's still something he talks about and wants, I don't know, but that was then. And he was talking about a bigger or better club in Europe. That will be his ticket in for the national team. Because so far, I have a hard time seeing Saman Ghodus as a regular player, starting player for the Iranian national team.
Pezhman, don't you think that he's too close to the Swedish national team? I think he's already played a couple of times, and obviously friendlies, and they're quite recent appearances. So do you think he would choose Iran if he feels he can make it in the Swedish national team?
And also, sorry to interrupt, this is an Iran team which already has 3 or 4 strikers playing in Europe, with Sardar Osman, who arguably will be Iran's number 1, even if Qudus does decide to play for Iran. You also have Ansari Fad playing in Olympiacos, and Hoxha in Holland, and how well he did last season. So do you think he would even get be able to get into the squad for the World Cup if he does decide to play for Iran?
Yeah, I believe, but maybe not as a lone striker up front. He could play as a number 10 or even at the left wing, possibly. So that's not impossible. He's a good pace. He's really fast, and he has a nice. He scores a lot of nice goals because his shoots are kind of hard. But the thing is, all players, they dream of playing for in the World Cup, and so far Sweden, although they don't really have that much of great forwards, they've been playing really good as a team. Some of others is what I can see right now not an interesting player for the Swedish national team. So if he will get called up by Iran, I'm sure that he will take that opportunity. Maybe Queiroz will test him out in some friendlies or some camps, see if he's that kind of player that he wants or that he needs. But today I can't see him playing before Karim Al-Sarfad or even Reza Khoshanejad. But in my opinion, I think Qudus is better than Khoshanejad. And
did you ask him? Did you ask him straight up? Would you choose to play for the national team, Melli?
Yeah. I asked him, and he said, "Well, we cross that bridge when we come to it. It will be
very diplomatic.
It will be an honor if both teams want me." But he said back then that Sweden was his number one choice because he's grown up in Sweden. He now also played for the Swedish national team, although it was kind of like a B team. But if he would choose, back then he said Sweden. Today he would probably say Sweden as well. But if not, then Iran is a really good choice for him.
Yeah.
Before I ask the Twitter questions, the final two questions I have for you guys, I'm going to start off with Babak. With this one is, if you look at how Queiroz and his style of play was when he first came into the squad with this team, and now the transition to the free-flowing football we have now, Babak, do you think he's going to go back, playing how we did beforehand, or do you think he's going to keep this style of play going into the World Cup?
It's a tough question. There's been an evolution. Let's not forget that Queiroz probably took over a side that was aging past its sell-by date, and it was, and he made it perform better than the sum of its parts. So we have to give him credit for that period. And then he proved a lot of people wrong by showing that he can evolve, he can change the style, he can change the system if required, and if he has the right sort of players. So you have people like Azmoun coming through, you have Jahan Bakhsh coming through, you have Pour Ali Ganji in defense, you have Saeed Ezzatullahi, Bayram Van. So you have a lot of young players who clearly have talent and who have also made the move to Europe, a lot of them. So you have quite a lot of Iranian players playing in Europe, and that's probably the best period we've had other than the era of Ali Daei, Mehdi Matavikia, Azizi, Bagheri, and these guys being in Europe. So that we have to put as a backdrop to the question. But going to the World Cup, I don't think we are playing free-flowing football the way you put it. I think we've played pragmatic football, but we are more adventurous where we need to be. I think we take the game to our opponents when the onus is on us. But then again, you look at the game against Qatar even in Tehran and was it in Doha, if I'm not mistaken? The first game, I think it was in Tehran. Even then, we were kind of being outplayed, although against weaker opponents. We were letting them have the ball, dictate the play, and then we hit them with 2 sucker punches right at the end. So I'm not going to say we're going to dominate the ball in the World Cup. I think we need to keep the solid defensive base, and obviously if you're playing free-flowing football, I don't think we would have conceded 0 goals and scored 8 goals. So we've been clinical and efficient. We need to find ways to put away more of our chances. I think we are a little bit wasteful because we're not going to create 6-7 clear-cut chances a game. I wouldn't be so disappointed if we are a little bit in our shell if we're coming up against big teams. I feel we have far better players on the counter-attack. and an attack to make our opponents pay. So I think we have to cross the bridge when we come down to it. Like Saman Ghoddos said, we have to see who we're playing in the World Cup, and we have to make a strategy for each game.
Sina.
Yeah, I agree. I think in comparison to 2013 and 2014, we were playing really defensively because we weren't good enough. That was the reason, because we didn't have the team, we didn't have the players, and we had no option but to play defensively if we wanted to make it to the World Cup. And then in the World Cup, we knew what happened. Difficult group. We had to play that sort of defensive game. Right now, we don't play defensive, we play counter-attacking. But because it suits the players, it suits of course, it suits Queiroz more than anyone. But I think there's, as Babak said, we play more pragmatic football right now than we did in 2013. 2013 was just, let's just defend and hope for the best. Whereas right now we have a plan, we have a strategy. If we don't have the ball, we know what we're doing. Every player, this is what I'm impressed about the most on the Queiroz in the last couple of years. Every single player in the team know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Every single player, even the players that come off the bench, know exactly what they should be doing. And I think that's the best thing that Queiroz has done for this team. That everyone knows their role. There's a strategy. There's a clear plan of what we want to achieve in every game, of how we want to play, how we want to make the opposition play. If we want them to have the ball, if they are having the ball, it's because we want them to have it. It's not because we want to have it and we're not able to, if that makes sense. We are leading the opposition to areas that we want them to go to. If we want them to play down the middle, then we push them down the middle. We tactically, I think this is the best Iran team that I've seen. Mm-hmm. So going into the World Cup, as Babak said as well, it's important to see who we get in our group. But it's not about the names. It's not about the big name countries. That's not what I'm concerned about. I'm mostly concerned about the styles of football that we'll be facing. If we face another team that plays counter-attacking football like us, I think that's where we struggle. But if we go up against teams that want to keep hold of the ball, want to attack, then that will suit us so much more. So that's what I'm really looking forward to see what styles of football we get in our group, and if it is a perfect fit for the way we play.
Pezhman?
Yeah, the guy said most of the important stuff. Just one thing that I noticed. I noticed it a lot of games now for Iran, is the high pressure that Iran been having on weaker teams, or at least every team that they're playing. But against Uzbekistan, if you look, especially in the second half of the second half, so to say, Iran was pressing Uzbekistan really high up. They had like 4 or 5 players deep in the Uzbekistan half, forcing them to shoot wide. And that was exactly what Sina was saying, that we are controlling how they are playing. And that was really impressive, because Queiroz is forcing the wingers, the midfielders, the attackers to actually put a high pressure and just don't wait on the ball as we used to see in the Iranian league, where you have like these divas up front. They don't want to do anything. They just want to score and celebrate by themselves. That's something that you don't see in the national team. And for me, that attitude change is something that I hope we'll see in the league as well, not just in the national team.
Pezhman, I think it's also confidence. The players, the manager, they're confident in what they're doing. They feel like they're better than the opposition. They're not fearing. Someone like Uzbekistan is a team that has always been, let's say, a bit of a fearful name for a lot of opponents in the Asian qualifiers, etc. I mean, they've never really hit their potential, but it's a team that everyone has respected. So I feel the confidence of the manager, the confidence of the players in what they're doing has made it easier to follow through with the discipline for 90 minutes and not taking their foot off the pedal. So we have to really respect what Queiroz has built now.
Exactly, and that's maybe why a smart player like Ali Karimi can actually play his first World Cup qualifier against a tough side as like Uzbekistan and know exactly what to do, when to do, and how to do it. For me, I don't know if Ali Karimi would be a better player under an Iranian coach. I can't see that happening. But I haven't seen him that much in Sepahan when he plays, so I can't really speak for that. But
ironically, his manager at Sepahan was Zlatko Kranjčar, who is again a foreigner who brought him through.
Yeah, well, there you go. So what we see now is a Iranian team without any stars. Okay, Azmoun is our biggest star, but let's be honest, people in Europe are still Googling his name when there are rumors that he will be playing in bigger clubs. Nobody knows our players. Nobody knows about Rami Rezayan and most for other players, or Milad Mohammadi that we value so much. But somehow Queiroz have seen the best of every player and made the best of every player, and that's something regardless of what you think about the national team or how boring they play or they just win 1-0 or 2-0. You can't find any other coach bringing out this team with these names performing this good, and for me I'm really pleased to see these players develop and taking the next step in the European clubs, such as Milad Mohammadi.
I just want to add... Yes,
go ahead first. No, go ahead. I'll go.
I wanted to say it's very important that the fact that we've qualified early, we've already announced the game against Russia, a preparation game in October, I think it is. It's very important that our players have the experience of playing against European teams, South American teams, African teams in the run-up to the World Cup. It needs to be a natural feeling when they go up against, let's say, Nigeria or Cameroon or Egypt, wherever it is in the World Cup, or the US or Mexico, etc. We have lacked this real game experience which Japan and Korea have gained in the last 15 years by playing against top teams. They don't have to be the best teams in the world, but against the teams that are up there in the reckoning and beating those teams. So the feeling is natural. Now, we beat Montenegro. They may not be the biggest team in Europe, but they had Stefan Jovetic. They had Stefan Savic. So they have players that are notable, and beating them in their home ground is important psychologically for us when we come up next time against the likes of Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia, wherever it is, that we can play against these teams. We have played against them. We can beat them. So this feeling needs to be kind of inbred, and that's the next challenge for Queiroz, to make sure the players think that, okay, it's not that we're beating Qatar, China, Syria, or whoever. We can play against the top teams, and we can get results against them as well.
Also, just one more thing I wanted to add are fitness levels. I think if you concentrate on the way we play and also the way that how players perform for Iran, fitness levels have dramatically improved in the past 4 years. I remember in preparation for the World Cup in 2014, Queiroz had complained about how poor the fitness levels are for Iran and how this could be a danger for us going into the World Cup. And to be fair, if you historically look at us in big tournaments, I mean, 2006 World Cup, you'd remember against Portugal and Mexico, how in the last 20-25 minutes we just wouldn't be able to perform at that level. In the last World Cup in 2014, we were good in the first two games, but once we went into the game against Bosnia, we weren't up for it. And after the tournament, there was an interview with Pouladi, and Pouladi said we were just simply tired. We just couldn't play against Bosnia. We were really, really tired. And I think in this tournament, there wouldn't be any of those issues because he's had so long to prepare. And I think fitness levels would be much, much higher in this tournament, which would, again, increase the levels of performance and how much these players can run and, of course, play to their best. So I think that could be a huge factor as well.
Yeah, and maybe we should not forget Iran's fitness coach from Finland, Mikko Koya, if I'm not mistaken. He's been a fitness coach for Iran for quite some time now, and I live in Sweden, and even if you guys think that Swedish people are tough, you haven't seen the Finnish people. I mean, they are the most badass, toughest people you can find on this planet. You know, they will eat you up. They have a weak football team, but they're among the best in hockey and a couple of other winter sports. And Mikko himself, he looks really physically in shape, and the Kairos and the players seem to have faith in him because he's been in the national team for quite some time now. So I think we should not forget Timo as well.
Yeah, just look at Sardar Azmoun. I remember Pezhman and I were talking regularly during most of our games. At the 60th minute mark, he looked completely gone and running on zero. But now in the last few games, you can see him 90 minutes in. He's still making an impact. He's not necessarily subbed off anymore. So it's very important for someone. And he's only 21 or 22. So it's unacceptable for a player like him to be running on empty after 60 minutes. So clearly, whatever formula these guys have behind the scenes, it's working.
My final question to you guys before I move on and ask questions from Twitter is that do you consider now Carlos Queiroz the greatest manager in Iran's history, Babak?
Most definitely. I mean, over the fact that he survived all the politics in Iran, all the backbiting, the media, the other managers, jealousy, etc. That's one battle on its own. But the fact that he's overseen probably taking our worst ever group of players to the World Cup last time around and then following that up with a complete turnaround in terms of style of football and dominance to be the undisputed number one team in Asia with a crop of very good players with a lot of potential, qualifying for our second World Cup in a row for the first time in history. And I think he's the longest term manager in charge of Team Melli as well in terms of, I think, 6 years or something like that. So I think he is. It would be nice if he could cap it off with a second round in the World Cup. Then it would really put everything to bed. But in my heart, I would love him to stay beyond the World Cup and give the Asian Cup its shot, because I genuinely feel this team, if we have a little bit of luck on our side, has the chance to break this 40-year or 40-something year duck when it comes to winning the Asian Cup as well.
Yeah, beautifully said. Sina?
I agree. I mean, today, Queiroz said during an interview that he wishes to stay in charge of Iran until 2022.
Wow.
I mean, you should take that with a pinch of salt.
And I'm his biggest fanboy. I'm so ecstatic just hearing that.
But yeah, I mean, he said that the preparations for the 2018 World Cup are, I'm quoting here, short-term planning for him, as he's looking forward to being in charge until 2022. But again, that's too far ahead. But I agree. I think Queiroz has been fantastic for us. He's done so much for the national team, but I think for his doubters and for his legacy, I think he really does need to get a result in the World Cup. Again, for us, it's not really in any doubt that he has been the best manager for Iran. But I think for his own legacy, he needs to at least get a win in the World Cup and shut some of these doubters.
I was watching Nabhat the other night, and Mehdi Taj, the federation president, said that they have a new federation complex for the national teams where all the different levels and age groups would be housed together, and that Carlos Queiroz would be overlooking the overall, let's say, youth development. This is like some sort of new concept, and he said Queiroz was complaining, I'm playing a certain system, but the other age groups are playing different system. This doesn't benefit Iran in the long term. And they said that part of his mandate or part of his role is going to be overseeing the development of the youth team. So that sounds like long-term planning. It's difficult for me to see Queiroz taking another job. So maybe there is some sort of, let's say, principal agreement that he's going to stay for another 4 years or 5 years and oversee the youth development as well. So we can only hope.
I think for Queiroz himself, these next 12 months will be key into making his decisions. If he doesn't get the support he needs in terms of getting the training camps, getting the friendlies, getting what he needs to prepare for the World Cup, then I don't think he will be too keen to stay, because then it would have meant it's happened twice, not just for the 2014 World Cup, but also for this World Cup as well. Then he would be thinking twice about staying on. But yeah, I mean, we all hope that does happen and he does stay on.
Pezhman? Pezhman? Can you guys hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay,
sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
I said that I agree with Babak, everything he said, and also with Sina that he needs to leave a legacy behind him now, even if he stays or not. This is his opportunity to make Iran historical by by actually qualifying to the second round or getting a gold medal in the Asian Cup. So for me, he's number one.
Alright, so the first question I have from Twitter is from Adel Shirin. I'm gonna come back to you again, Pezhman. Is that he mentions that how far do you see Iran progressing last 16? Is that a realistic expectation now?
Adel John, yes, I do believe that it's realistic. Well, we said it the last time also, and we stopped saying that when we saw our opponents, because it was a tough group with Argentina, Nigeria, and a joker in Bosnia. This time around, those kind of teams, or like Nigeria and Bosnia, Iran can actually play a decent game against them, and we should expect, hopefully, at least one win. We will most probably have a really tough opponent, such as Argentina or France or Brazil, but the other two teams, they should be equal to Iran, hopefully. So it all depends on what kind of teams Iran will get, but I'm hopeful, and I believe that Iran can get to the second round.
Sina?
Yeah, I agree, but I think in terms of our opponents, it's not the names that I'll be looking at in particular. As I mentioned, it'll be the styles of football that I'll be looking for to see whether, if they do play the kind of football that we can beat. We were, even in friendlies, we've already seen us beat the likes of Chile, and that was Chile on the Sampaoli. They went on to win the Copa America, probably the best Chile side that there's been on their peak, and we beat them because they played the sort of football that fits our mentality, our philosophy. So I think if we go up against teams like that, who like to get on the ball, who like to attack, then it suits us perfectly. But if we do go up against teams such as Costa Rica in the last World Cup, teams who play counter-attacking football themselves, then I think that would be above a struggle for us. So it's not the names that I'll be looking out for in particular. It's more the styles of football that I hope fits us. And if it does, then I think a round of 16, a historical round of 16, will be possible in Russia.
Babak?
I agree with the guys. With Sina, I'm somewhere in the middle. I mean, yes, okay. It's not that we are afraid of the names, but the names sometimes signify something as well. If you come up against Argentina, even if those are going to dominate the ball and the style would on paper suit our game plan, it's going to be a tough slug for us. So it's not likely that we're going to get a result. Maybe if with some luck we could. So I think we're kind of due some luck in the draw for the World Cup. We've had some tough choices, selections in the past few editions. Germany's been there, Serbia, Argentina, Portugal, Mexico. These are all teams who were in very good shape at the time. Our best draw was actually the last World Cup, despite the fact that we disappointed so much. I will add at the end, though, I recently had a dream, and we were in the World Cup final, and we were playing England for the tournament. So you never know what that means.
I can't tell which one is more impossible, whether Iran to get to the World Cup final or England.
This we have a question from Juventus LA Club, and this question is definitely specific tailored for Sina. Is where is Andronic, and will he be in the team in 2018?
Well, we were talking about this before we started recording the pod. Andronic, he is the past season has been up and down for him. He had a lot of injuries first half of the season when he was at Moshin Sozi, who was really struggling in the league. They were bottom of the table all the way through. Since January, he moved to Dafta Tehran under Ali Dai. He managed to get some regular football, but I don't think he's the same player he was. So since January, when he has been playing regularly, he's not really been invited to the national team. He's been cast aside, if you like. So I don't think we will see him in 2018 World Cup. And the fact that there's a player at Persepolis by Kamal Ikomi who has been playing for Iran in the last 2 years. He's very similar to Andronic in terms of he's a very combative midfielder. So I think if Queiroz does need that sort of central midfielder, the type who will, he's more of a destroyer who likes to tackle, then I think he will choose to go for Komi at this moment of time than Andronic. And I don't think Andronic in the next year he's gonna regain that shape that he had a couple of years ago. So we might have seen the end of Andronic, unfortunately.
Another question we have is from Martin Lowe, and sort of similar question to Adele's, but this time he's asking how far do we honestly expect Iran to progress in Russia? I'm going to go with Pezhman. Do you see us actually progressing?
Well, a man can dream. Just ask Babak. But yeah, I do believe that Iran can progress to the second round. 1 year of preparation. That's a long time.
Yeah, but this is Iran we're talking about in preparation.
That's true, but even with Iranian measures, that's good enough. Because hopefully now other countries would like to play against Iran to prepare themselves. Because they get a decent opponent, opponent that is technically maybe not the best, but great discipline, a team that's hard to beat, and not a team that you just can go out and expect a win. So for other teams, Iran is an interesting candidate. So that's why I think Iran can prepare well and hopefully win a game, maybe draw a game and go to the second round. Nothing is impossible anymore.
Babak?
Yeah, I agree with the guys. I think with a little bit of luck and the fact that this is going to be our longest preparation towards the World Cup, we're usually accustomed to qualifying in October or November. So I think we can, and I'm quite positive. If you ask me today, if you tell me today we're going to get knocked out on the group stage, I think most of us are going to be quite disappointed. So I think the expectations, and it's somehow something that the manager is going to bring upon the team as well, because of the confidence, the way they're talking, the mood of the players. I think there's a sort of confidence around the camp that suggests that this team, the goal is to qualify for the next World Cup. Ferdowsi asked Queiroz somehow, without putting him on the spot, that is the goal going to go to the second round? And he said, that's what we're trying, that's the point of qualifying for the World Cup. Otherwise, we might as well not play. So it suggests to me that we're going to do whatever it takes to progress this time.
Sina?
I agree. I completely agree. I think in terms of preparation, as Babak said, this has been the longest time that we've had. And knowing Queiroz and knowing how much importance he puts on being prepared and training camps, then I have no doubts that he will have the right plans for us in the next 12 months. But again, I think there will be a lot of emphasis on the group, on the teams that we get in our group, and whether we would have the luck of the draw, as Babak put it, or not. I think that will be the key factor for us going into the World Cup. Also, avoiding injuries are so important for us. This is a very settled team at the moment. So I think any injuries will be not irreplaceable, but I think it would really damage our chances in the World Cup. I mean, especially with players such as Milad Mohammadi, who is possibly our only right back. So imagine if he gets injured, knock on wood, then we would be in a bit of a trouble. So I think avoiding injuries for these players will be hugely important in the build-up to the World Cup.
And the final question we have is from Hassan Gholami. He says, who is the most important player for Iran? I'm going to start off with Babak with this one.
It's tough to say. I mean, I think we all agree that this is a real team, and almost any player is probably replaceable. And this team, the way Queiroz has set it up, we're not relying too much on a player. If I was pushed to pick one or two players, one would be definitely Sardar Azmoun, because as much as we have people like Ansari Fad, Buchan Najad, and let's say others ready to step in, and they've done decent in Europe recently, I think at the highest level, only Azmoun has that quality to go to the top of the game. So he would be one, and I would also pick Milad Mohammadi, not necessarily because he is a vital, let's say, star player, but because of what having him means to the team, the balance that we have in defense, and the fact that Haj Safi is able to play in central midfield. In case Mohammadi is not available, it not only disrupts our defense, but probably pulls back Haj Safi to a left-back position, which he's had very, very mixed results at best, and then exposes our central midfield again, probably. So I would probably pick those two players.
Pezhman?
Well, if we ask Queiroz, he would probably say Ezatolahi, because he's the player that's been playing most of Iran's games. My pick wouldn't be Ezatolahi. And I have a hard time picking, because as Babak says, anyone can be replaceable. We have had good games without Azmoun as well, but I will go with Azmoun as well, because he is that kind of game-changing player that we need. Maybe he won't even start the game. Maybe he will just play 20, 30 minutes, but he's the kind of player that can score goals. But he doesn't need 10, 20 opportunities. He actually is quite good at taking his opportunities. He's one of the best I've seen with his head. So I will go with Azmoun, probably.
And I know Sina will definitely pick...
Or Jahan Bakhsh. Sorry, I almost forgot Jahan Bakhsh. But, I mean... he gets injured too often when it comes down to the national team, and that's something he should be worried about, because it happens a little bit too often, I think. But he's a player that can change games as well. But Azmoun as well, and then after that, Jahan Bakhsh.
I think Sina's going to say Adir Zahayri if he comes back.
No, I think we all agree on Azmoun as one of the important players. I'm also going to go for Hosseini. I know he's coming towards the end of his career, but we've seen how important he is whenever he starts for Team Ali. Every time he plays, he puts in a stellar performance. So I think replacing him, if we are to replace him for the World Cup, will be a huge, huge task for Queiroz. Not just in terms of what kind of player he goes with, but also for the partnership that he has with Pour Ali Ganji and the settled back four that we have. So I think he is really important.
Sina,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Don't you think that Pour Ali Ganji and Montazeri could be a solid couple? They actually played a couple of games, and Hosseini wasn't that missed. Hosseini is a great leader. But as a player, I think, what do you reckon, Pour Ali Ganji and Montazeri?
If I had the choice between Hosseini and Montazeri, I would go for Hosseini. I don't think Montazeri has been that great in the past year or so, and with his supposed move to Iran, I think, his supposed move to Esteghlal, it will mean he will be playing at a lower level, if you like. So I'm not sure if he would be up to the standards of Hosseini. Hosseini has shown consistently that he can play at that level. And also, the games I think that we have conceded, not in the final round of qualifiers, but before that, were the games that Montazeri played at centre-back, if I'm not mistaken. So I think Hosseini will be key. And the fact that he continues to play for Iran, regardless to his age, shows how much importance Queiroz puts on him. Even though, as you said, Montazeri has been involved in a couple of games, but Hosseini continues to start alongside Purali Ganji, and I think Queiroz sees him as one of the key members. And also, one of the concerning things for me, I'm not going to say he's a key player as such, but the fact that we've only got one player like him is Masoud Shojai. I mean, we're all disappointed with some of his performances in the last couple of years, but he continues to be our only number 10. I mean, Dejaga has played in that role, but he's not really a number 10. Shojai is the only number 10 that we have, and I think that is a cause for concern, and we've been waiting for Queiroz to find a solution to that, but he's continued to stick with Shojai in that role. He's had a good year in Europe last season with his team in Greece, and he has somewhat improved in his performances for Iran. But I think there does need to be another player stepping up to challenge him for that number 10 spot. There's Farouk Sharafi, who has decided to leave Persepolis and move abroad. Whether that will be to Qatar or Europe is a different question. But we saw Rafi in 2015 World Cup, 2015 Asian Cup, being involved in that tournament. But since then, he's not really been playing for Iran. So I'm not sure how Queiroz wants to deal with this if he wants to start Shojai at the World Cup. But I would like to see other attacking midfielders being given a chance to see what they can do in the next 12 months.
I think Shojai has a cool head on his shoulders, and even though he's going to be 34 at the World Cup, I think he's impressed. He's impressed me since the Asian Cup. He's improved in the sense that he's doing what's needed for the role. He's not overdoing it. He's not dallying on the ball. He's not trying to make runs. So I think he's done well enough. But despite what you say that Ashkan Dejaga is not number 10, Ashkan Dejaga is never going to be a winger again, not at his age. So he has to adapt or reinvent himself as a number 10. He's got the skill. He's got the creativity. He lacks the pace to play in any other position. So I think that it could be a challenge between those two guys. Or if Haj Safi comes back in, is there a chance that he's going to play with Haj Safi, Ezzatullahi, and maybe Karimi in central midfield, more solid, but having one box-to-box player maybe? So it's an interesting position, and one of the few which I think we can say is not a nailed-down certainty for the World Cup.
Well, the thing with Dejaga as well is he's not really been playing a lot of football in the past 2 years. I mean, he was at Al Arabi in Qatar the season before last. He was in and out of the team. In the past season, he's been injured. For the past 6 months, he was at Wolfsburg. I think he only played one game, the final game of the season. So again, he has another key and important 12 months ahead to find a club that he can actually play regular football in. First team football that he's not really been getting the last 2 years. So again, that although I agree with you, but he's not much of an improvement on Shojai himself.
Well, I appreciate all your thoughts and everything. We're going to wrap this episode up. And as always, for the viewers, we always appreciate the support, and we'll be releasing more pods down the line. As always, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Pasha, for hosting this once again. Great job.